In her past life, poor student Lu Yuking suggested going to northern Myanmar for just 99 yuan per person. I desperately tried to stop it, and even paid over 100,000 out of my own pocket, taking the whole class to a 5-star tour in Yunnan for an ultra-low price of 1.800 yuan. But after the trip, Lu Yuking went online and wildly spread rumors that I took kickbacks and cheated people out of money. I thought my classmates would speak up for me, but the class monitor led the charge in pressuring my family to refund the money. My childhood sweetheart of 3 years exposed my privacy to the entire internet, accusing me of having a guilty conscience. All 44 classmates joined in to kick me when I was down, driving me to jump from the 18th floor. When I opened my eyes again, I was back in a class meeting on the podium. Lu Yuking was promoting her trip to northern Myanmar. This time I clapped, with a smile. Listen up, everyone. I have a distant cousin who's a big boss in northern Myanmar. For my sake, he'll cover all the airfare, accommodation, and sightseeing. Each person only needs to pay a 99 yuan guide service fee on the podium. Lu Yuking, a financially struggling student, was passionately promoting her northern Myanmar tour. 99 yuan. Seriously, even a KFC meal costs more than that these days. Isn't northern Myanmar supposed to be really chaotic? Can we even go there? What do you know? Yuking uncle is a big boss. He must have armed bodyguards following him. Yuking, you've been keeping this a secret pretty well. So your family has these overseas connections. The noise buzzing in my ears pierced my eardrums. I snapped my eyes open, gasping for air in ragged breaths. My whole body still seemed to retain the pain of bones shattering inch by inch from the fall off the 18th floor. I looked down at my intact hands, then at the words on the blackboard. College entrance exam application guidance class meeting. An overwhelming wave of ecstasy instantly engulfed me. I have been reborn. Reborn on the day the whole class was discussing the graduation trip in my past life. It was also on this podium that Lu Yuking proposed this 99 yuan northern Myanmar tour plan. Because my family runs a travel agency, I am fully aware of the grey industrial chains in Southeast Asia. I know that northern Myanmar is not a tourist destination at all, but a hell that devours people without spitting out their bones. I was frantic at the time, rushing onto the stage to snatch her proposal, earnestly pleading with everyone not to go, saying that the National Anti-Fraud Center had issued countless warnings long ago to completely dispel everyone's thoughts of going to northern Myanmar. I took the initiative to arrange a graduation trip, using my family's resources. I booked a luxurious 7-day tour of Yunnan for everyone. 5-star hotels, round-trip flights, and a pure sightseeing experience, with no shopping stops. The travel agency's cost price was over 6,000, but I only charged my classmates 1.800 yuan. The remaining difference of several hundred 000 yuan was entirely covered by the New Year's money I had saved up since childhood. I thought I had saved the lives of all 4 to 5 students in my class, but I never expected that the ones I saved were a bunch of ungrateful beasts after returning from Yunnan. Lu Yuking held a grudge against me because she didn't get to be the benefactor of the whole class. She wrote long posts on various social media platforms, tearfully accusing me. She claimed that I, relying on my family's travel agency, forced classmates to spend money. She said that all 1.800 yuan went into my pocket, that I had no conscience, and cheated my classmates out of their money, and even spread rumors that the places I took them to were all free attractions, and that the 5-star hotel was actually a budget hotel, pretending to be one overnight. I was doxxed. My family's travel agency was flooded with malicious negative reviews, and someone even splashed red paint on my parents' car. I tried to ask for help in the class group chat, but not a single one of those 4 to 4 classmates who had enjoyed 5-star treatment was willing to step forward and say a fair word for me. Some even made snide remarks below. Lin Shanyu, you've made so much money. What's the harm in refunding us a little? Not only that, but Jiao Zi, the class monitor, who usually puts on a righteous front, actually led the entire class to hold up banners in front of my family's travel agency. He even shouted through a loudspeaker, "Unscrupulous Lin Shanyu, return our hard-earned money and compensate us for emotional distress." And Gui, my childhood sweetheart, and boyfriend of 3 years, publicly slammed me in a video online. In the video, he said, with feigned righteousness, although I am Lin Shua's boyfriend, I cannot cover for her. She has always been materialistic and greedy. I apologized to the whole class on her behalf. That video of Gue was the final straw that broke me. He even made public my home address and personal phone number. Every day, people sent me funeral wreaths and dead rats. My parents' car was also splattered with red paint. In the end, unable to bear the weight of it all, amidst a torrent of abuse and my parents' tears of despair, I jumped off the rooftop. Shangyu, what are you spacing out about? My deskmate nudged me, pulling me back from my hellish memories. Yu Qing said, it's only 99 to go to northern Myanmar. Isn't your family running a travel agency? Do you think it's reliable? I looked up and met Lu Yuking's calculating gaze from the podium. A cold smirk curled at the corner of my mouth. I think it's extremely reliable. 02. Upon hearing my answer, the whole class immediately erupted into enthusiastic cheers. Lu Yuking immediately straightened up and looked at me smugly. I knew in my past life that she had always been jealous of my good family. Background. This time, her distant uncle suddenly contacted her, painting a rosy picture of northern Myanmar, saying that as long as she brought classmates along, he would cover all the expenses. Lu Yuking didn't even bother to think. Why would an uncle she hadn't been in touch with for years suddenly be so kind? And besides, what kind of place is northern Myanmar? But now her mind is filled with nothing but vanity, only wanting to seize this opportunity to show off in front of the whole class and trample all over me. The rich Aries, since Shangyu thinks it's a good deal. 2. You should come along as well. Lu Yuking lifted her chin. Even though your family is wealthy, this kind of chance to enjoy a luxury experience without spending your own money, your family's travel agency can't offer that. Can it? Before I could speak, my childhood friend, Gue, sitting in the front row, turned his head, slightly furrowing his brows, and said to me in that usual lecturing tone, Shangyu, actually, northern Myanmar is still a bit far. Since your family runs a travel agency, why not to sponsor the whole class to go to Sonia or Yunnan? Your family is so rich. Think of it as lightening the burden on Yuking's uncle. Can't you? Just do it as a charity. Listen, this is the man I was blind enough to fall for in my past life. Generously spending others' money, you brazenly demand that I pay out of my own pocket to do charity for the whole class. All while using the excuse of caring for Lu Yuking. I leaned back in my chair and sneered. Gue, do you think money grows on trees in my family? Since Lu Yuking's uncle is a big boss worth over 100 million, why would he need me to lighten his burden? If I snatched the chance to pay, wouldn't that be disrespecting Yuking's uncle? Lin Xingyu, why are you speaking with such a sharp tongue? Class monitor Jiaoyi suddenly stood up. Look at Yuking. Her family is struggling, yet she still thinks of the whole class when something good comes up, and you of capitalist greed, with no sense of collective honor at all. How selfish. Exactly. The richer, the stingier. Yuking is much better. The classmates immediately became indignant, chiming in with the class monitor, casting contemptuous looks at me as if I had committed some heinous crime. Watching these ungrateful wretches, I felt not a trace of anger. I almost burst out laughing in my past life. I cared too much about this so-called classmate bond only to have them drain me dry, and then grind my bones to dust in this life. I will let go of my savior complex and respect others' fates. I stood up, a smile on my face. You're right, class monitor. I am indeed selfish and unworthy of traveling with everyone. As it happens, my parents have already booked me a ticket to Europe for tomorrow, where I'll be staying for half a month. I simply can't join you all on this trip. I can only wish everyone a fun and enjoyable time in northern Myanmar. Hearing that I wasn't going, Gui's eyes flickered with disgust. Fine, don't come then. Lin Xingyu, you're nothing but a rich girl who only cares about money. You have no idea what true classmate friendship really means. All right. If she doesn't want to go, so be it. We can do without her. Lu Yuking, afraid that I might ruin everyone's mood, quickly clapped her hands, and shouted, "Spots are limited. Everyone, transfer the money to me quickly so I can book the bus as soon as possible." "Bus isn't it a flight ticket?" someone asked. Lu Yuking explained, without batting an eye. "The flight ticket is for the short trip from the Yunnan border to northern Myanmar. Since we're starting from our hometown, we have to take the bus to the border first. Anyone who doesn't want to go can come back out now." I'm going. Yuking. "Here's my 99. Keep it safe." Class monitor Xiaozi immediately acted as Lu Yuking's lackey, taking the initiative to step forward. With a notebook, "Everyone, line up properly." After transferring the money to Yuking, "Register your identity information. With me, I'll help Yuking coordinate." Gui also gently walked over to Lu Yuking's side, helping her maintain order. "Yuking, you've worked hard. If you need any help, just let me know." I sat in my seat, watching coldly as these murderers, who had driven me to death in my past life. Lu Yuking, with a face full of intoxication, basked in the adoration of the entire class, completely unaware of where her so-called uncle would take them. But what does that have to do with me? 3 days later was the day they were set to depart for northern Myanmar. The weather outside was unusually stuffy and hot, the incessant chirping of cicadas grating on the nerves. I lounged comfortably on the sofa in my air-conditioned home, eating chilled watermelon, while scrolling through the class WeChat group, which was buzzing with messages. Lu Yuking had posted over a dozen photos in the group. In the photo, all 44 classmates stood in front of a dilapidated second-hand bus, with even the air conditioner's outdoor unit leaking water. Yet, everyone was excitedly flashing peace signs. Gui sent a message in the group chat and specifically tagged me at Lin Xingu. "You missed this trip. Even if you're staying in a castle in Europe, your heart will still feel empty." Class monitor Jiao Zi followed up right after. "Exactly. Thanks to Yuking, our class can stay so united even after graduation. Unlike some people who only care about wealth and status." The group chat immediately filled with a long string of sycophantic comments, all mocking me and fawning over Lu Yuking. I didn't reply. Instead, I calmly pressed the screenshot button, carefully saving all the chat logs and transfer records, and backed them up to the cloud drive. Not only that, but I had already secretly recorded a video during the previous class meeting. Moreover, I had already gone to the notary office a couple of days ago to notarize one by one the evidence that I explicitly refused to participate in this trip, while the other students formed over Lu Yuking voluntarily requested to join this tour, and even insulted me. I know that, when this group finds themselves trapped in northern Myanmar, with no way to escape, their frantic parents will surely lash out like mad dogs, biting at everyone in sight. I must ensure I remain completely clean, quietly watching the drama unfold from the sidelines. By the afternoon, the bus had been bumping along the dirt road for over 5 hours. The tone in the group chat started to change. "Is the air conditioning in this car broken? It's so hot. My clothes are soaked through." The sports monitor sent a message. "The road is way too bumpy. I feel like I'm about to throw up my bile." "Yuking, how much longer until we get there?" A few girls also started complaining. The group chat fell silent for a moment. Lu Yuking sent a pitiful expression. "I'm sorry, everyone. My uncle said the road over there is under construction recently, and the bus can't get through the good sections, so we have to take the small roads. Can you all hold on a little longer? My uncle has already prepared a 5-star hotel at the border waiting for us." As soon as she looked upset, her protectors immediately jumped out. Gui sternly criticized in the group chat. "Stop complaining. It's a 99 yuan group tour. Did you expect first-class seats? Yuking has been running around for this trip, barely even having a proper meal. Show a little gratitude." "Will you?" class monitor Jiaozi also scolded. "Exactly. If you can't even handle a little hardship, what big things do you expect to accomplish in society? This is precisely the moment to test our class's unity. Anyone who keeps complaining can get off and walk back on their own." With such a high-minded label slapped on them, the few complaining students instantly fell silent and had to quickly apologize to Lu Yuking in the group chat, declaring that they were absolutely capable of enduring hardship watching them desperately manipulate each other in this stuffy sealed truck. I find it utterly ridiculous to preserve their pitiful vanity and so-called collective honor. They have forcibly turned themselves into the most obedient slabs of meat on the chopping block. At around 10 o'clock in the evening, the bus finally arrived at the desolate mountains along the China-Myanmar border. The group chat became lively once again. Lu Yuking announced excitedly, "Classmates, great news! We're near the border checkpoint. My uncle's people are ahead to receive us. But my uncle just instructed that to make it easier for everyone to quickly and uniformly handle the border crossing procedures and avoid the hassle of queuing for inspections, everyone should now hand over their ID cards and phones to me. The contact will take them to process everything together." As soon as this message came out, there was a brief hesitation in the group. What? They're taking our phones. Then how am I supposed to let my mom know I'm safe? This is way too weird. Since when do you have to hand over your phone to cross the border? What if we get separated? Just as everyone was hesitating, squad leader Jiao Z stepped forward again and scolded loudly in the group chat. "Stop dawdling. Do you really think Yuking would harm you? Her uncle is a big boss. So of course the insider channels are different from the regular ones. They're inviting you to play for free, and you're still suspicious of them. Have you no shame? Hurry up and hand them over. I'll collect them myself." Gui also sent a voice message. Everyone listened to the class monitor. And how Yuking treats us on a daily basis is clear for all to see. How could we doubt her? I'll be the first to hand it in. With the class monitor and Gui taking the lead, the faint voices of doubt in the group were instantly suppressed. Those flowers raised in a greenhouse, eager to keep up with the collective pace, scrambled to hand over their last lifeline. The squad leader is right. Hand it over. Hand it over. Yuking, you've worked hard. I'll hand it over now. Once I get my phone back at the 5-star hotel, I'll send the photos to my mom. Watching the words flickering on the screen, I scooped up a spoonful of watermelon and smiled silently, collecting phones, handing over passports. These are all classic steps in the piglet handover process. Is this the luxury tour you wanted? My dear classmates 04? After handing over their phones, the bus jolted through the darkness for nearly another hour before finally coming to a stop. But what came to pick them up was not some 5-star hotel shuttle, but several foul-smelling semi-trail trucks with canvas covers. Several dark-kinied men in camouflage vests rudely pulled open the car door and shouted in broken Chinese, "Get out! Hurry up! Don't dawdle! Damn it!" The pampered young ladies and gentlemen in the car were startled, and some girls even screamed, "Yuking! What's going on? Why are we being made to ride in this kind of car?" The sports monitor asked bravely. Lu Yuking herself was a bit confused, but to maintain the facade of my uncle is a big boss in front of her classmates, she forced herself to stay calm and reassured everyone, "Don't be afraid. This must be my uncle's way of keeping a low profile. He specially arranged for someone to pick us up in secret. Think about it. With so many of us transiting Visery, we can't be too flashy. Once we get to my uncle's turf, everything will be fine." At that moment, class monitor Jiao Z also snapped out of his initial panic and resumed his sycophantic role. Yuking is right. Big bosses have their own way of doing things. The most important thing for us on this trip is to follow orders. Everyone, get in the car quickly. Don't cause any trouble for Yuking's uncle. Although Gui frowned deeply, he quickly chimed in, "No pain, no gain if you can't even handle a little hardship. How can you deserve the 5-star treatment that's coming later?" With these two pillars brainwashing everyone in succession, all 44 students obediently climbed onto those trucks. The truck raced along the rugged mountain road for what felt like an eternity. Inside the dark compartment, it was stifling and foul-smelling. Gradually, fear began to spread in the hearts of these newly adult students. Finally, the truck came to a halt with a screech of brakes. "We're here. Everyone get out." The blinding searchlight instantly hit their faces, dazzling them so much they couldn't open their eyes. After they rubbed their eyes and adjusted to the light, the sight before them made everyone feel as if they had fallen into an icy abyss. What appeared before them was a massive compound tightly enclosed by towering concrete walls. The top of the wall was strung with electrified barbed wire. On the watchtowers at the four corners, several armed men were coldly watching them in the air. There was even a faint, nauseating stench of decay. Yuking WH is this? What about your uncle's hotel? A girl was so scared her voice trembled, with tears. Lu Yuking's face had also turned pale as she looked around. I don't know either. The photos my uncle sent me didn't look like this. Just then, the heavy iron door was pushed open from the inside. A middle-aged man, with a thick gold chain around his neck and tattoos covering his arms, walked out, surrounded by a group of armed thugs chewing betel nut. He looked the students up and down, with a gaze as venomous as a snake's. Lu Yuking, as if clutching at a lifeline, hurriedly stepped forward. Uncle, you're my uncle, right? I'm Yuking. I've brought all my classmates here. Just like you said, the 5-star hotel. Before Lu Yuking could finish her words, the man backhanded her across the face, spinning her half a turn on the spot. Half of her face instantly swelled up, and blood trickled from the corner of her mouth. The entire class of 44 people fell into dead silence. Yuan, Uncle Lu Yuking covered her face, staring at the man in disbelief. The man spat out a mouthful of betel nut juice. What uncle? Once you're here, you call me Brother Chong. Seeing this, squad leader Xiaozi mustered his courage and stepped forward, trembling as he said, You, why are you hitting people? We're here as tourists. We're going to call the police. Give us back our phones. Brother Chong glanced at him and signaled to the lackey beside him. The next second, the cold barrel of a gun was pressed directly against Jiao Zaidi's forehead. Call the police. Brother Chong stepped forward and patted Jiao Zaidi's pale face, a ferocious grin spreading across his face. All right, go ahead and try calling them. 05. Meanwhile, I was lying in a hotel by the Seine, leisurely enjoying an authentic French afternoon tea. It has been a full 48 hours. Those 44 classmates who went to northern Myanmar have vanished, without a trace, as if they had disappeared from the face of the earth. Finally, on the evening of the third day, the parents' group exploded. The first to lose patience was none other than Gui's mother. She sent 3 voice messages in a row in the senior year parents' group chat, her voice filled with anxiety. Dear parents, have any of you been able to reach your children? In these past 2 days, my Zioi usually video calls me every day, but it's been 2 days now. Her phone is off, and she hasn't replied to my WeChat messages. As soon as this message was posted, the group chat instantly erupted. Same here. My daughter said she would send me photos as soon as she reached the border. But there's been no word from her yet. What's going on? Weren't they supposed to be traveling in Yunnan? Why have they all gone missing? Could they have run into a mudslide or a car accident? Panic spread quickly. Soon, these parents, flailing like headless flies, turned their accusations toward me in my past life. These parents also came to my family's travel agency to cause trouble, without distinguishing right from wrong, pushing my parents to the brink of exhaustion at this moment. Guys, Mother was frantically aiding my mom in the group chat at Lin Shinua's mom. Your family runs a travel agency. Was it your company that organized the kids' graduation trip this time? Where exactly did you take them? You better give me an explanation right now, or I'll call the police, and have your shop shut down immediately. Jiao's mother also chimed in to back her up. That's right. My son is the class monitor, the most responsible one. There's no way he'd just disappear without a reason. It must be a problem with the itinerary or travel agency arranged. You heartless professors. Hand my son over right now. Looking at the aggressive accusations on the phone screen, I let out a cold laugh. My mom was about to explain in the group chat. I pressed down on her hand, took the phone, and directly posted several high-definition screenshots in the parents' group. The first one was a screenshot of Lu Yuking loudly promoting the 99 yuan Northern Myanmar tour in the class group along with a photo of a bus. The second image is a detailed record of all 44 classmates lining up to transfer 99 yuan to Lu Yuking via WeChat. The third image is a screenshot of Gui and Jiaozi playing off each other in the group chat, mocking me for being tainted by the stench of capitalist money and barring me from joining their trip. The last image is a photo of the notarized certificate I obtained from the notary office, which clearly states I Lin Shang Yu, due to going abroad for a vacation, did not participate in the class's graduation trip at all, nor did I provide any travel agency services. After posting these, I leisurely typed a message in the group chat. Uncles and aunties, listen carefully. This trip has absolutely nothing to do with my family's travel agency. It was classmate Lu Yuking, who said she has an uncle worth over 100 million, who's a big boss in northern Myanmar. So she signed everyone up for the 99 yuan northern Myanmar luxury tour. And by the way, Gui and Jiao Zadie's mother's year sons were key players in this event to defend Lu Yuking. They not only called me greedy and snobbish, but also took the lead in confiscating everyone's phones. Since you can't reach them now, why not head straight to northern Myanmar to find that big boss? After this message was sent, the parent group, with over 80 members, fell into a dead silence that lasted a full 5 minutes. Immediately, the group chat went completely insane. Myanmar's north. Why did you go to Myanmar's north, comma? Damn it. Lu Yuking. Don't you know what kind of place that is? Oh my God. My daughter. Call the police. Call the police now. Gui's mother sent a voice message in the group chat, her voice already tinged with desperate sobs. Impossible. My Xiaoi is so smart. How could he go to a place like that? Lin Xingyu. Why didn't you stop them? You knew it was a trap. Yet, you watched them jump right in. You malicious girl. I looked at this utterly shameless voice message and shot back, without hesitation. Auntie, your son is a genius. He personally cursed me, saying I weak of capitalist influence and don't understand their camaraderie. Even if I wanted to stop them, why would they listen to me? Since you have time to morally blackmail me here, you might as well call the police and save them right away. 06. Another 3 nerve-wracking days passed back home. The parents were already as anxious as ants on a hot pan. They reported to the police, pulled strings, contacted the embassy. Every possible method was exhausted, but a crossbow rescue, especially in a heavily armed region like northern Myanmar, where warlords hold sway, is no simple matter. And here I was sitting at an outdoor cafe on the Champs-Élysées in Paris, savoring a gentle breeze, while cutting into a delicate mousse cake. Just then, a message suddenly popped up in the senior year parents group chat. The class sports rep's mother had posted dozens of chat screenshots in the group, along with 2 blurry black screen voice messages. I curiously clicked on those screenshots. It turned out that the sports committee member was a big fan of police and gangster films, making him far more vigilant than the other students. When everyone handed in their phones, he kept his wits about him and secretly stuffed a spare phone into his underwear, narrowly escaping the search. After being locked in the compound for 5 whole days, he finally found a chance to send a distress message to his mother. The text in the screenshots is fragmented and full of typos. You can almost feel the despair through the screen. Mom, save me. This isn't a trip at all. We've been sold. It's Lu Yuking. Her dad owed the local boss 300,000 in loan shark debt and ran off years ago. That so-called uncle is actually the head of a scam compound. That idiot Lu Yuking was set up, and she sold all 44 of us in our class to pay off her family's debt. The following screenshots are even more shocking. On the first night in the industrial park, squad leader Xiaozi, for talking back and threatening to call the police, had his right leg broken on the spot by Brother Chong's men with a steel pipe. There was no doctor here, and his leg was now infected and festering. He was running a high fever, crawling on the ground every day, screaming for help. Gui was scared out of his wits. He tried to escape, but was hit by several security guards with high-voltage electric batons, causing him to lose control of his bladder and bowels. He lay on the ground convulsing, and now couldn't even utter a single word. Seeing the fate of Gui and Jiaoyi, I raised an eyebrow back in the class group chat. They were the 2 who shouted the loudest, desperately using the sense of collective honor to coerce others, even taking the lead in confiscating everyone's survival tools, driving the whole class to a dead end. Now that it has come to this, it can be said that he got what he wanted. Lu Yuking is the worst off. Brother Chong said she has to pay off her father's debt, and she has been dragged out and brutally beaten for several days. Not only that, whenever the thugs are not around, The other students take out all their anger on her, torturing her in various ways every day. The rest of us boys are locked up in a dark room running telecom scams, working 18 hours a day. If we fail to meet the 100,000 yuan quota, we're forced to eat raw chili peppers and have our fingernails pulled out. The girls have already been taken for medical checkups and organ matching, ready to have their blood drawn and organs harvested at any time. Mom, I don't want to die here. Please call the police and save me. The last 2 voice messages were filled with the dull thuds of a whip striking flesh along with desperate, distorted wails. Once this evidence was released, the parent group of over 80 people erupted into a complete battlefield. Parents in the group began sending heart-wrenching cries of anguish. Jiazo Zaidi's mother directly posted a photo of herself fainting and being rescued in the hospital. Gui's mother had completely lost her mind, frantically posting incoherent messages in the group chat. I calmly scrolled through the screen, watching the messages pop up one by one, my heart undisturbed in my past life. I had also stood on the rooftop of the 18th floor, crying out in heart-wrenching despair, hopelessness, and pleas for help. But back then, this group of people showed not a shred of pity. Instead, they stood below, pointing and mocking me, asking why I hadn't jumped yet. The heavens have their cycles. I picked up the delicate cup of black tea on the table, took a gentle sip, and let my phone vibrate wildly on the Surface 07. A week later, I ended my trip to Europe and returned home. At this point, due to the distress message sent by the sports committee member, the police intensified their cross-border negotiations. However, the situation in northern Myanmar was too complex, and, with Brother Chong's compound under the protection of local armed forces, a direct assault was simply impossible in the short term. The parents were panicked, and in their desperation, turned to any remedy they could find. And the first person to suffer the consequences was me on my first day back in the country. As soon as I drove into our upscale villa district, I saw Gui's mother and Jiao Zaidi's mother along, with over a dozen parents of students actually dressed in mourning. And blocking the gate of our villa, not only had they put up a white banner reading, "The Lin family stands by and does nothing, treating lives like grass," but they had even brought several funeral wreaths and were playing a dirge on a loudspeaker in a loop. "Lin Xingyu, you murderer, get out here!" Gui's mother, her eyes bloodshot and her hair disheveled like a mad woman, shouted the moment she saw my car. She lunged at it and frantically pounded on the window. "Your family runs a travel agency. You must have connections with both the cops and the underworld in Southeast Asia. How dare you refuse to save people? If anything happens to my Zioi, I'll make your whole family pay with your lives." Jiazo Zaidi's mother even lay down in front of the car wheels, rolling around and making a scene. Everyone, come and see. This heartless rich girl knew full well it was a scam ring, but deliberately didn't call the police, letting the whole class go to their deaths. Her family must be in cahoots with the human traffickers in northern Myanmar. She's trading our children's lives for kickbacks. The security guards went through hell and high water to hold back these rabid parents. I sat in the car looking at these repulsive people outside, a cold, mocking smile curling at the corner of my lips in their past life. They also threw tantrums and caused trouble everywhere, claiming that my family's travel agency had cheated them out of their money to smooth things over. My parents not only paid a large sum of compensation, but were also misrepresented by the media through selective reporting. They ended up with a ruined reputation and a bankrupt company. But in this life, how could I ever give them that chance again? I directly dialed the emergency number and then signaled the driver to open the door. "Aunties, it's been a few days. How come you're both putting on a show right at my doorstep?" I stepped out of the car gracefully. Dozens of newly hired private bodyguards immediately stepped forward, shielding me in the middle. Seeing me appear, Gui's mother went berserk. "Lin Shenu, you finally dare to show your face? Hurry up and have your dad contact the gang over there and get my son back." I sneered. "Auntie, you can eat whatever you want, but you can't just say whatever you please. I had nothing to do with your trip from start to finish. It was your precious son who voluntarily handed over his phone and even scolded me for meddling. Now that something's gone wrong, you want to turn the tables and blame me that's standing by and doing nothing. Not only did you not stop him, but you also kept it from us parents. A girl's father angrily accused. Stop him. How was I supposed to stop him? I sneered again, directly pulling out a tablet I had prepared in advance, connecting it to a Bluetooth speaker, turning the volume to maximum, and playing the notarized class meeting video in front of everyone in the video. Gui passionately and indignantly accused me, you weak of the capitalist stench of money, with no sense of collective honor at all. Everyone's going. Don't let Lin Xing you ruin the fun. She's just jealous of Yuking. The whole class Jared. Lin Shanyu is just a snob who despises the poor. Yuking's uncle is a big boss with guns for protection. So what's there to be afraid of? The sound of the video echoed through the villa district. The parents, who had been righteous with indignation just moments ago, suddenly looked like ducks, with their necks squeezed, their faces turning, a mix of green and white. The onlookers also understood the whole story. Oh, so it was these students who insisted on going themselves. The girl was inexplicably cursed at for being money-grubbing. And now they come to make a scene. When something goes wrong, these parents are just too shameless, aren't they? Listening to the whispers around her, Gui's mother turned pale. Suddenly, with a thud, she knelt before me and began slapping herself repeatedly. Shangyu, I'm begging you. Auntie knows she was wrong. Xiaoi was so good to you before. You two dated for 3 years. You can't be so heartless. Please save him. Auntie will kowtow to you. Watching her pitiful state, I felt not a single ripple of emotion. Auntie, save your strength. I looked down at her from above. The police are already here. You've gathered a crowd to cause trouble, creating a disturbance, and severely disrupting my family's normal life. I've already hired the best legal team to sue you for compensation for emotional distress and damage to my reputation. As soon as the words were spoken, several police cars roared up and quickly took away all the parents who had been causing trouble. I stood there watching the police cars disappear into the distance and shook my head. They still didn't know that worse things were yet to come. 10. After Cheng Jia had completely subdued that group of students, he finally set his sights on these parents. The day after Gui's mother was released from police custody after being detained for education, she received a video call from overseas. The moment the video connected, Gui's mother's tears burst forth like a dam breaking. On the screen was a dimly lit iron cage. Squad leader Jiaoi was curled up in the corner, his right leg bent at an unnatural angle, the wound already severely festered, his face covered in blood. He cried into the camera, shouting, "Mom, save me. Mom, send me money. Mom," as the camera panned, a face that was both deeply familiar and yet strange to Gui's mother appeared on the screen. "Mom, it's me." Gui was wearing a security guard uniform from the compound, and in his hand, he actually held a blood-stained leather whip. Although he was thin, he was unusually energetic. Xiaoi, why are you wearing these clothes? Weren't you beaten? What are you doing?" Gui's mother was completely stunned. She simply couldn't connect the whip-wielding thug in front of her with her gentle, obedient top student son. "Mom, I'm doing great here. Brother Cheng appreciates me. I'm now the squad leader of District A," Gui said as if boasting about some remarkable honor, then whipped Jiaoxi, who was locked in the iron cage, with a backhand. Jiaoxi immediately let out a scream, and Gui's mother was so frightened that she shrieked. "All right, Gui, cut the crap and get to the point," came Chongji's cold voice from outside the screen. Gui instantly put on a fawning expression, bowing and scraping toward the direction outside the screen. Then he turned around and coldly said to his mother, "Mom," Chongji said, "you can ransom us if you want. Zaya's ransom is 1.5 million. As for mine, Chongji thinks I'm capable, so it's 2 million. Hurry up and sell our house, then borrow some money from relatives, and transfer the total of 3.5 million to this account. Once the money is sent, Jiaoi and I can go back. 2 million? Where would our family get 2 million? Gui's mother cried out in despair. "If you don't have the money, go borrow it. Go sell your blood. Go sell a kidney. Gue suddenly erupted in anger. Don't you want to save me? Are you just unwilling to part with your measly money? Being yelled at like this by her own son, Gue's mother's heart was completely shattered. But to save her son, she frantically borrowed money from everywhere, even selling their family home at a rock-bottom price. Even Jiao Zaidi's parents lost everything they had. Several families pulled their resources together and finally scraped together 35 million in ransom, which was transferred to the overseas account specified by Brother Chong. The moment the money was sent, Gue's mother seemed to have aged 10 years. Trembling, she clutched her phone, waiting for news of her son's release. A few hours later, the overseas call came again. Gue's mother excitedly answered. Hello, Brother Chong. We've transferred the money. Azaiwai and Xiaozi on the plane. When will they be home? In the video, Brother Chong was sitting in his boss chair smoking a cigar. The money's been received. Brother Chong blew out a smoke ring and let out a sneer. But I think you've got the wrong idea. What? What do you mean? Gue's mother's voice began to tremble. This 350000 is just their food and venue fees for 1 month in our compound, Brother Chong said, with a cruel smile. Gue is now my right-hand man. He just swindled 500,000 from an old lady back home yesterday. For such a high talent, how could 200,000 be enough for ransom? If you want him back, prepare another 500. Oh, as for that useless Xiaozi, Chongji turned the camera in the frame. Xiaozi had already been dragged into a sterile room. Several people in white coats were walking toward him, with scalpels. His legs are rotten, so he can't do the scamming anymore. Keeping him around is just a waste of food. Coincidentally, a foreign boss has taken a liking to his 2 kidneys, and corny as that 1.5 million will serve as his nutrition fee. No. The video abruptly ended amidst Jayazidi's desperate screams and Gue's mother's piercing shrieks. Bankrupt and left with nothing, both money and life lost. Even worse, that screen recording was seen by Jiao Zaidi's mother. When she learned that it was Gue, who whipped her son with a leather whip, personally demanded the ransom, and ultimately caused her son to have his organs removed, Jiao Zaidi's mother completely lost her mind. Just as Gui's mother was sitting slumped on the street holding her phone, Jayazidi's mother rushed over with a kitchen knife and slashed it into Gue's mother's shoulder. Your son is a beast. Give me back my son's life. 2 desperate mothers wrestled on the street, blood spilling everywhere, and were eventually both taken away by the police. When I saw this trending news report, I was leisurely pruning the endless summer hydrangeas at home. Those friendships flaunting classmate bonds, and the so-called sense of collective honor are as fragile as a piece of waste paper in the face of interests and life and death situations. In my past life, they rebelled atop my corpse. In this life, they can only descend into hell, tearing each other apart. 11. Time flies, and half a year has passed in the blink of an eye. As the international joint operation closed in, Brother Chong's compound was ultimately raided by the police. Brother Chong was pinned down in the mud. My 44 classmates could finally return home on the day the special plane flew them back home. I went to the airport at the gate. Those one-spirited young men and women now looked like a group of zombies. Some were missing arms, some had lost their sight, and some even had parts of their organs hollowed out, barely surviving in wheelchairs. Squad leader Xiaozi didn't die on the operating table, but he lost both legs and 1 kidney. As for Lu Yuking, she had completely lost her mind. When she was brought out, she was still muttering, "Uncle is a big boss. I am the big boss's niece. $99. You can't go wrong." That once vain girl had ultimately sacrificed her soul to the devil. As for Gue, he actually looks quite healthy, but he is wearing cold handcuffs escorted by 2 SWAT officers as he steps off the plane. Because in the park, in order to protect himself, he not only brutally beat his classmates, but also participated in multiple major transnational fraud cases involving tens of millions of dollars. He is no longer a victim, but has been listed as a criminal suspect. What awaits him is a long prison sentence. When Gue walked past me, he suddenly stopped in his once arrogant eyes. Only despair remained. He looked at my glamorous appearance his lips trembling for a long time, and then suddenly knelt down. Shang Yu. I was wrong. I was really wrong. Goo. I struggled frantically under the suppression of the SWAT officers. If I hadn't scolded you back then, can you please save me? Help me hire the best lawyer. I don't want to go to prison. Shang Yu Jiao, she also heard my name. His remaining. I fixed on me, with a deathly glare as he roared. Lin Shang Yu, why didn't you save us? You knew it was hell. So why did you watch us die? You monster? Faced with their curses, I merely curled my lips, with an air of indifference. I put on my sunglasses, and turned away, without looking back. The sunlight fell on my shoulders, dispelling all the gloom. Their lives have been completely ruined. As for me, my life is only just begun next. Let's listen to the next story. My best friend gave up the college entrance exam to chase after a rich second-generation guy. I tried my best to persuade her, and even showed her evidence that the rich second-generation guy was actually just an ordinary person. Unexpectedly, she turned around and sent that evidence to him. The enraged rich second-generation guy held a grudge against me. After the college entrance exam ended, he drove his car and ran me over, killing me. Not only did my best friend not feel sorry for me, but she pleaded for him and slandered me everywhere. After death, my soul lingered, unwilling to disperse. I witnessed, with my own eyes, how the rich second-generation guy in prison met a big shot, and through illegal dealings became a self-made rich man. My best friend, dressed in all kinds of designer brands, came to my grave. Shushu, I told you Zo was a rich second-generation guy. Why didn't you believe me? Tilda. When I opened my eyes again, I was back to the day my best friend was chasing after that rich second-generation guy. Shushu, do you think this JK outfit looks good? Or this Lolita one? My best friend was in the dorm, carefully choosing her battle outfit for the evening's confession. She didn't notice my strange expression at all. Was I reborn? I glanced at the time. There was still a 100 days until the college entrance exam. My best friend waved her hand in front of my eyes. Shoo. Why aren't you saying anything? I snapped back to reality. I saw that my best friend had already changed her clothes. A short JK skirt paired with suggestive stockings. I knew my best friend's personality very well. She only listened to compliments. If anyone said anything she didn't like, she'd think they were jealous of her. And that rich second-generation guy was just a fool trying to save face. He spent money hiring all kinds of luxury cars to pick him up at the school gate, while acting as a thug to collect debts for quick cash, weaving a fake identity as a rich second-generation guy. Truly a perfect match for each other. I curled my lips. It looks great. You'll definitely succeed in your confession wearing that. I'll wish you luck in advance. My best friend was indeed pleased to hear that in my past life I had earnestly advised her, even throwing the evidence that Jiao Zhu wasn't a rich second-generation guy right in her face. But she turned around and sent that evidence to him. Someone spread that evidence on the school's gossip wall. Jiao Zhu felt humiliated and hated me to the core. After the college entrance exam, he drove his car and ran me over, killing me in this life. I decided to let go of my urge to help others and respect their fate. Tu, where are you? Can I come find you? Tilda. My best friend sent a voice message in a sweet Kiddish tone after spraying perfume. She grabbed her bag and left. My roommates gradually returned. I was at my desk doing practice problems. Was that Su Jingru? Just now, I almost thought I was seeing things. Yeah. Why was she dressed like that? By the way, Shu Yi, do you know what's going on? I looked at my roommate Jiang Qing in my past life. She was the one who gave me the evidence that Jaya wasn't a rich second-generation guy. She was too scared to get involved herself and kept pushing me to expose Ju to satisfy her own twisted curiosity. The stuff on the school gossip wall was also spread by her. It seems like she went to confess. I don't know the details. Jianqing nodded and started fiddling with her phone that evening. Jianqing let out a surprised shout. Look, Su Jingru made it onto the school's trending posts. Su Jingru had succeeded in her confession. Her passionate kiss with Gozu on campus had been posted online. First high school's rich and handsome guy confessed to Jiao Zhu is in a relationship under those hashtags. Countless people were discussing. The two of them had become the center of attention that night. Su Jingru didn't come back the next morning. She limped back. Jiang Qingqing asked her what was wrong, but she only vaguely said she'd fallen. I thoughtfully brought Su Jingru some ointment and noticed the bruises on her knees and the hickeys on her neck. Jiang Qingqing stood nearby, not leaving. She was quietly observing Su Jingru, then raised her phone and took a few sneaky photos. Seeing this, I said nothing. Su Jingru took leave. I was in the classroom writing furiously. Jiang Qing nudged me. Don't you think Su Jingru is acting strange? You saw it too, right? The hickeys on her neck. I shook my head, indicating I didn't care. She wanted to keep talking, but the teacher's deadly chalk was already flying toward us. She had no choice but to stop. Too. My whole body hurt so much. Tilda. Back in the dorm, Su Jingru was on the phone in a sweet voice from behind her bed curtains. While washing up, she quietly pulled me aside. Shoo. My boyfriend has a good buddy. A super rich guy. Want me to set you two up? I shook my head. My mom told me to focus on the college entrance exam. You know, my parents are strict. Su Jingru pouted. What's the point of doing well on the college entrance exam? You'll still end up working for someone else and kissing up to people. This is a chance to rise to the top overnight. You don't know, but when Zhu gives an order, the whole capital city shakes, looking at Su Jingru, who was so eager to push me into it. I only later learned that Su Jingru had always been jealous of my better grades. I always complained about Gao Zhu on the phone. So, she chose to run me over the moment I walked out of the exam hall. She probably couldn't stand the thought of me getting a good score and wanted to drag me down. With her, Jiang Qingqing, who was wiping her face nearby, looked very interested. Set me up. With 1-2. Su Jingru gave her a contemptuous glance. This isn't something just anyone can get involved with. Jiang Qing's face instantly darkened. She stared at Su Jingru's back, deep in thought. Lately, Su Jingru had been spending money lavishly. The latest fruit-themed family bucket, pretty skirts, bags, and so on. She would casually spend thousands, or even tens of thousands. She bought a ton of brand-name cosmetics and skincare products, claiming that a woman's face was her greatest weapon. Su Jingru's family wasn't wealthy. Everyone's living expenses were about the same. Now, any single item she pulled out was worth a month's worth of everyone else's living expenses. Every time Su Jingru came back with a pile of packages, Jiang Qingqing's eyes nearly stuck to them. She would pull out her phone and search for every single item of Su Jingru's from every angle. Looking at the enviable numbers on her phone, Jiang Qingqing gradually developed ulterior motives. From then on, she began to subtly curry favor with Su Jingru. She would buy her meals, pick up her packages, help her dodge dorm inspections, and even wash her clothes for her. Su Jingru gradually grew closer to Jiang Qingqing. One day, she finally agreed to take her to meet that so-called rich guy. Jiang Qingqing wore a little mom-style dress she had bought at great expense. She mooched off the makeup artist Su Jingru had booked for a home visit. She crossed her arms and looked at me. Shui, why do you bother eating those rotten vegetable leaves every day? Not like me. Soon I'll be in a different class than you. I pretended to think. Then should I go tell Su Jingru that I also agreed to meet the rich guy? You, Jiang Qingqing, glared at me fiercely, as if afraid I would snatch her iron rice bowl away. With your scrawny figure, even if you went, no one would give you a second glance. I found it a bit amusing as I looked at her deliberately pulled down neckline. Anyone who could hang out with Jiao Zhu couldn't be a good person if they wanted to throw themselves at him. I wasn't going to stop them from that day on. They both stayed out all night. Even when they came back to the dorm, they would just collapse and sleep. Jiang Qingqing had finally entered the circle, buying up large quantities of the latest phones and bags. The homeroom teacher once asked me about it, but I just pretended not to know. Su Jingru's grades had originally been in the upper middle range, good enough to get into a 211 university. But ever since she started dating, her grades plummeted. In this mock exam, Su Jingru came in last, and Jiang Qingqing was second to last. The teachers talked to Su Jingru countless times. Teacher, this bag of mine could buy an apartment in the city center. The college entrance exam. Even if I do well, what's the point? When I graduate, I'll just be working for my boyfriend. Oh, right. My boyfriend even opened a company for me. From now on, everyone who passes the exam will be working for me. And teacher, you don't need to call my parents. My mom already knows about this. Su Jingru's mother was greedy and always favored her younger brother as long as money came into the house. She didn't care, even if Su Jingru was dating a married man. Passing by the office, I heard her shouting loudly. The English teacher shook her head at the door. She's been scammed. That bag is obviously fake. Because there's only one in the whole country, and it's in my house. The English teacher was a true rich Eras. The whole school knew it. They could only shake their heads as they watched Su Jingru spouting nonsense in the office. Good advice is wasted on the damned. After that, the homeroom teacher stopped dealing with her. She was nowhere to be seen at school until one day in the middle of the night. I received a call from Su Jingru. I deliberately didn't answer, but I still got a voicemail from her. Shu, can you send me 500? No, just 200. I had a fight with Jiao Zhu. He threw me out on the roadside, and now I'm broke. Shu, why aren't you replying? I think someone's following me. I'm so scared. I turned off my phone and went back to sleep with a clear conscience. The next morning, Su Jingru kicked the dorm door wildly. When my roommate opened the door, Su Jingru, with her hair disheveled, rushed toward me. She threw my books all over the floor and yelled at me at the top of her lungs. Why didn't you answer? When I called you last night, I had to walk all the way back. I poked my head out of bed, still half asleep. When did you call? I was sleeping. She stared at me viciously, then suddenly burst into tears. Last night, she had spotted a limited edition bag at the mall. Just said he would buy it for her tomorrow, but she wanted it right then. During their argument, she accidentally scratched the bag. The store clerk said she either had to pay a $100,000 in compensation or buy it. Jiao Tzu, with a dark face, paid the fine and dumped her on the roadside. That bag is a drop in the bucket to him. Why won't he buy it for me? Su Jingru was crying and pouring out her grievances to me. I handed her a tissue. Maybe he just felt you embarrassed him in front of others. Men need to be coaxed sometimes. That's all. He loves you so much. And you love him just as much. This is nothing. Isouled her with gentle words. And finally she was satisfied. Little did she know that honest advice is often the hardest to swallow. After class, a crowd had gathered at the entrance to our dormitory. I spotted Zhang Yu, our class monitor. She pulled me aside. Your dorm is a complete mess. Su Jingru and Jiang Qingqing got into a fight. I was a bit surprised. Weren't those two practically joined at the hip lately? How did they end up fighting? Apparently, Su Jingru introduced Jiang Qingqing to some rich guy, but Jiang found out he wasn't rich at all. He couldn't even scrape together 3,000 yuan for a meal. I nodded. He really wasn't a rich guy, just one of Jiao Zhu's thugs, who hung around with him in my previous life. I had stepped in to warn Jiangqing, and she hadn't been fooled by the illusion. But in this life, without my honest advice, she had truly been seduced by the endless high spending that Su Jingru flaunted. Jiang was gripping Su Jingru's hair tightly. You kept the good one for yourself, and set me up with a broke loser. I'll scratch your face off. You're the broke one. I was kind enough to hook you up, you ungrateful wretch. In the end, the dormitory aunt had to pull them apart. Both of them were called in for a talk as a result. Jiang Qingqing was forced to move out of the dorm. Before she left, she shot Su Jingru a vicious glare. Su Jingru didn't back down either that night. Su Jingru was on the phone, with Jiao Zhu again chatting away. Brother, my face hurts so much. You have to get revenge for me. Tilda. I heard the sinister tone in Jiao Zhu's voice on the other end, and a chill ran down my spine. The next day, Su Jingru was showing off the 99 roses Jiao Zhu had given her, flaunting them everywhere. That Jiang Qingqing was just too impatient. That rich guy was only testing her, but she couldn't handle it. She turned to me. Shu, my boyfriend still has plenty of connections. Do you need any? I touched the exam paper in my hand and shook my head. She turned and asked the others in the dorm. The others all shrank back, eager to avoid her. You don't appreciate a good opportunity when it's handed to you. Don't come crying to me later, when it's too late. Seeing that no one was paying her any attention, she sneered a few more insults and left the dorm. I heard that day, she found several younger female students and introduced them to those so-called rich guys. My seat was relatively close to Jiang Qingqing's. Her face was swollen badly, clearly from fresh injuries that day. She passed me a note saying she had something important to tell me. I had someone investigate. That guy isn't a rich second generation at all. His parents only run a small restaurant. They work themselves to the bone every day and don't even earn 300 yuan. Look, here's all the proof I found. She handed me a stack of photos. I was very familiar with all of them because in my previous life, she had personally handed them to me. Are you sure you're not mistaken? Jiao Zhu is generous with his money and treats Su Jingru very well. I pretended to know nothing. You're all wrong. That money came from high-interest loans he took out using Su Jingru's identity. If you don't believe me, go ask Su Jingru if she registered a company under his influence. She handed me a screenshot of a loan. The borrower was a company under Su Jingru's name. The loan amount was 3 million yuan. He specializes in this kind of thing. He originally tried to drag me into it, too. Luckily, I was sharp enough. Only that fool Su Jingru is still in the dark. She talked until her mouth was dry, hinting that I should expose all of this and get revenge for Su Jingru. Aren't you Su Jingru's best friend? She's being cheated like this, and you won't even tell her. She shoved all the evidence into my hands. I shook my head and gave it back to her. I don't believe any of what you're saying. I still think those two aren't what you imagine them to be. Seeing that I was a lost cause, Jiangqing immediately dropped a harsh threat, saying she would make both of them pay. I made an excuse to leave, feeling the object in my pocket over the next few days. Rumors spread like wildfire. The entire school was buzzing with commotion. Gao Zhou was a fake rich second generation. Even Su Jingru's private photos were leaked along, with explicit chat records between her and Jiao Zhu. I never expected that she had taken so many revealing photos in the early days, just to seduce Jiao Zhu. Woo woo. Who did this? I can't face anyone. Shu Shu Woo Woo. Su Jingru called me crying and complaining. Now she didn't even dare to step through the school gates, afraid someone might recognize her. Jiao Zhu has disappeared too. Shu Shu, do you think is really a fake rich second generation? Like the rumors say. In the quiet of the moment, I thought I heard another breathing sound on Su Jingru's end. Was there someone with her? I don't think so. He's been so generous with you. Designer bags, skincare, dresses, jewelry. If he were a fake rich second generation, how could he be so lavish? I try to keep my tone calm. Jiao Zhu was definitely looking for the person spreading the rumors. He must have suspected me. Su Jingru chimed in with a few words of agreement, and finally I used studying as an excuse to hang up in my past life. I had poured out all the evidence, and suspicions like beans from a sack. If the person on the other end of the line was Go, he would have definitely formed the intent to kill me, without those troublesome matters disturbing me. I threw myself wholeheartedly into exam preparation, looking at the mock exam paper. This time I achieved first place in the entire school. Strangely, Jiang Qingqing was also absent from the exam. It seemed she had been missing for several days. Our homeroom teacher couldn't get in touch with her either. After evening self-study ended, I always felt like someone was watching me from the darkness. I couldn't help but quicken my pace. Suddenly, a stray cat darted out from beside the bushes. I was startled badly, just as I let out a sigh of relief. Then someone covered my mouth and dragged me into a remote classroom. The classroom was pitch black. Everywhere smelled of dust slap. A palm struck my face. It burned fiercely. A flashlight clicked on. The intense light made tears stream from my eyes. Gradually, I made out the person in front of me. It was Jiao Zhu. You're the one spreading the news on the campus wall, aren't you? I shook my head frantically. Jiao Zhu let out a cold laugh. With a single slash, he cut my arm. I writhed in pain. Jianqing already confessed that you were the one who instructed her to spread the rumors. You hid it pretty well. He held the knife in his hand, continuously gesturing over my body as expected. It was Jiangqing again. She never changed her ways, and had once more dumped the blame on me. Then don't blame me for being unkind. I have evidence. I know. Who spread it? Trembling, I opened my phone. Hey, did you hear about the traffic accident at the school gate? During lunch, the class monitor chatted with me. I paused, chopsticks in hand in my past life. The scene of a car rushing toward me was vivid in my mind. It was our classmate Jianqing. She drove her car and killed Jiao Zhu. What? It wasn't Jiao Zhu. Who hit someone? I was a bit confused. Then Zhang Qingqing. She was sentenced to 3 years in prison. After Jiao Zhu learned the truth, he went to Jianqing's house to find her. He brought a bunch of thugs. When he couldn't find her, he trashed her home. He also beat her father until he was crippled before leaving. He even made a harsh threat, saying he would make Jiang Qingqing's life worse than death. This drove Jiang Qingqing so crazy that she didn't even dare to go home. Under this psychological pressure, she completely lost her mind. She took her father's car and ran into Jiao Zhu, who was staking out at the school gate. She fled the accelerator and took him out. After hearing this, I let out a sigh. I never thought I would accidentally unlock such an ending. Zhu was dead. The heavy stone pressing on my heart had finally fallen. From now on, I could focus on preparing for the college entrance exam in peace. Back in the dorm, I saw Su Jingru tightly wrapped in her blanket. Su Jingru was right there at the scene. She was terrified out of her wits by Jiao Zhu's death. I recalled what the class monitor had said. Shoo shoo. Shoo shoo. I'm so scared. That woman Jiang Qingqing is a complete lunatic. Even though it was the middle of summer, she still felt an icy chill. I comforted her, but my mind was elsewhere. Ding dong. Can these scammers come up with a new trick? They say I borrowed 3 million. What a ridiculous reason. Su Jingru looked at her phone while drying her hair. I glanced at the text message on her phone. The sender's name seemed so familiar. Suddenly, a flash of inspiration hit me. I remembered the evidence Jianqing had given me. Among it was Jiao Zhu using Jiang Qingqing to take out a loan. The name of the lender matched the sender's name. I looked at Su Jingru, who was completely unaware, and ultimately chose to stay silent after what happened in my past life. I didn't dare to meddle in others' karma. After the storm passed, Su Jingru returned to her ordinary life. There were only about 30 days left until the college entrance exam. But someone who had experienced a life of luxury and indulgence could never be content with an ordinary life. Within 2 days, she was complaining about the terrible cafeteria food, the boredom of doing practice problems, and the high cost of the clothes she wanted to buy. I listened silently, occasionally agreeing with her, but I never lectured her again in the remaining days. Her mind wasn't on studying. Instead, she was leaving class early quite often. Gradually, I noticed she had been receiving a lot of packages and takeout deliveries recently. All of them were high-end gifts and various gourmet foods. One day, she quietly pulled me aside and asked me to take a topless photo of her back. I saw all sorts of indecent photos on her phone and various vulgar messages popping up. Oh, just take it, without worry. Those perverts online only look at the pictures. I send a few voice messages and pretty photos, and they're all over me. See, all those things were gifts from them. She lifted her chin, pointing toward the luxury items. Then she struck various poses on the bed until I saw a message. Video call tonight. No excuses. You hear me? Shui. My pupils constricted. How did he know my name? On the other end was a greasy middle-aged man. He'd also sent countless ding-talk photos from every angle to Su Jingru. I scrolled through Su Jingru's sycophantic language. The further I read, the more horrified I became. She'd used my name in every single conversation. With those people. Su Jingru, explain yourself. How do they know my name? Su Jingru looked a little guilty. I was afraid it might have a bad impact on me. So I used your name. It's fine for you. It's not like they have your photos. You can. Just deny it. When the time comes. I was so angry I laughed. You think it's bad for yourself. So you use my name. and my information. Explain everything to them clearly, or I'll call the police right now. I didn't waste words. With her, I directly dialed 110. I didn't let up until I saw, with my own eyes, that Sujingra had explained everything to each of those men. After this incident, I didn't bother with Su Jingru anymore. She also temporarily stopped those behaviors. Just when I thought she'd lie low for a while, I received a debt collection message from Su Jingru. Not just me. Everyone around me got one. Open up. Open up. Early in the morning, there was a heavy pounding on the door. The roommate closest to the door opened it. A figure rushed in. You wretched girl. What have you been doing out there? Why are there so many debt collectors at our door, saying you owe them 3 million? Hand over the money now. Su Jingru gradually panicked. Her mother's words struck her like a heavy blow. Mom, I didn't borrow any money. Shoo shoo. Shoo shoo. Tell my mom I didn't borrow money. You know I didn't borrow any money. Shoo shoo. I pushed her hand away. Just a moment ago, I received a debt collection message from you. At that moment, the class monitor, who'd come to visit, also raised her phone. I got one, too. At first, I thought it was just a new type of scam. Su Jingru, maybe you should call the police. Su Jingru's mother grabbed the class monitor's hand. Don't call the police. Don't call the police. The debt collectors warned us. If we call the police, they'll kill my whole family. Your little brother is still at home. We can't call the police. Su Jingru suddenly thought of something. Right. Shoo shoo. Didn't your mom buy you a house? Can you lend it to me to convert into some cash? I'm really scared those debt collectors will come knocking. Her mother stared at me greedily. What does a girl need a house for? Lend it to us first to tide us over. I coldly shook off her hand. So Hingdu, why should I pay for the mistakes you made? My parents worked hard to buy me that house. What? Just because you open your mouth. The house has to change to your last name. Exactly. 3 million. Such a huge hole. And you want someone else to wipe your ass for you. You're dreaming too big. The class monitor also put her hands on her hips. Speaking up for me. Su Jingru, rendered speechless, had an extremely ugly expression. Her mother rolled up her sleeves. Your classmates. Why are you so stingy? You're nothing but an ungrateful wretch. Your parents shouldn't have bought you a house. I'd never seen anyone so shameless. I let loose a string of classic curses. Everyone in the dorm got fired up. They united to tear both of them apart verbally. Suddenly, a group of people burst in. They picked up photos in their hands and compared them. It was Su Jingru's face. That's her. Take her away directly. The class monitor tried to step forward to stop them, but I gently pulled her back. What are you doing? Help. I don't have any money. She has money. Go find her. Su Jingru pointed at me frantically. I shook my head. I'm just a poor student. The man looked at my faded t-shirt. I didn't look like someone with money. Good thing I was used to being frugal. But Su Jingru, dressed head to toe in designer brands, looked like she could squeeze out some cash. Mom, don't you have money? Save me. Su Jingru turned to beg her mother. Her mother's arrogance immediately deflated. Where would I get money? Just go with them and see how to settle it. You're lying. You have money. I've seen your bank book. Big brother. My mom has money. Su Jingru clung to it like a lifeline. You wretched girl. You ungrateful brat. I don't have any money. Everyone don't believe her. I don't have money. They directly knocked out the noisy Su Jingru and took her mother along with them. Everyone looked at each other. Finally, this far was over. Within a week, Su Jingru returned safe and sound. Her arrogance was off the charts. Smack! A key was slammed heavily onto my desk. See that limited edition supercar worth 10 million. Shuhei, don't think your crappy 3 million house makes you so great. You'd better remember, there's always someone better out there. Lately, Su Jingru had been building a rich persona on campus. Everyone envied her as the perfect rich beauty. Only those of us in the know stayed silent. People were curious where her money came from, until they saw her naked on a video call in the dorm. Damn it. Su Jingru. There are other people in the dorm. I'm about to get ice strain. Her roommate was horrified seeing her naked body. Especially since the person on the other end of the video was an old man old enough to be her father. Su Jingru had lost all sense of shame by now. She just thought others were jealous that she'd latched onto a sugar daddy. To avoid getting caught in the crossfire, everyone in the dorm kept quiet and pulled their curtains shut the moment they returned. Terrified of being dragged into it, Su Jingru only got worse, sometimes video calling until midnight. "You little brat. Su Jingru, get your ass out here." A piercing scream echoed through the dormitory building on our one day off. Everyone was woken by the noise downstairs. I opened the window and looked down. It was Su Jingru's mother. You're living the good life and leaving your mother in the dust. Your brother's at the age where he needs to get married. Give me back that 300,000. Ever since Su Jingru had been taken away, her mother had scraped together 300,000 over half a lifetime, only for this worthless daughter to sink it all into a hole. She was so furious she wanted to kill. But lately, she'd heard from many people that her daughter had made it big, casually throwing around 10 million on luxury cars. If she didn't crack down now, once Su Jingru's wings were strong, she'd never listen again. "Mom, that car belongs to someone else. Where am I supposed to get you 300,000? I'm still carrying 3 million in debt." Su Jingru had to pull her mother aside. "I don't care. Haven't you latched onto some sugar daddy? Ask him for it." The roommate's eyes went wide. This was the first time they'd seen a mother encourage her daughter to find a sugar daddy. In the end, Su Jingru begged and borrowed 3,000 from everyone around, just to send her mother away. After that, she started spending nights out again. Everyone breathed a sigh of relief. It was safer for everyone when she wasn't around. As the college entrance exam approached, the class monitor quietly told me Su Jingru had dropped out. Just like in my past life, she could no longer settle down to study or take exams. 800 days had changed a person's entire life. The last time I saw Su Jingru before the exam was outside a famous nightclub. She was draped in a little Chanel-style jacket, kissing and hugging an old man inside a car. I couldn't stand looking at his yellow teeth and wrinkled face, so I turned to leave, but our eyes met. She said something to the old man, then walked over in her stilettos to greet me. "You're jealous, aren't you?" She showed off the rings and bracelets on her hands from every angle. Most people work there, whole lives, and can't even afford one of my bracelets. "Shinshue, I win." I just looked at her quietly. Su Jingru's expression overlapped with the one from my past life, when she declared victory at my grave. "I never competed with you for anything. Hypocrite, you're better than me at everything. Grades, social connections, family. Why should you be?" She finally shouted out everything she'd been holding inside. I shook my head. She only saw my shine in front of others, never realizing that everything takes effort. Su Jingru had already given up on herself. Time flew faster, and the college entrance exam arrived. The air was thick, with a heavy, stifling atmosphere. After the exam, I walked slowly out of the testing hall. The sun was incredibly bright that day at the class gathering. Everyone was discussing answers and their dream schools. My roommates sat next to me gossiping. I heard Su Jingru got caught as a mistress. The wife beat her to a pulp and posted it online. I know. That old man could be her grandfather. I can't believe she'd stoop that low. She wasn't like this before, ever since she started dating that Jiozu. She's changed after that. I saw her a few more times outside the nightclub. Each time she'd subtly flaunt her new bracelets, rings, and necklaces. "I'm going abroad," she said, holding a slim cigarette. "There's this guy who thinks I'm young, pretty, and smart. He wants to marry me and take me to university overseas." I let out a long sigh and gave her one last warning. "It's very unsafe abroad right now. Don't get scammed." "So, only you get to be ambitious. Everyone else going abroad to study is a scam." She cut me off sharply. "What I hate most is your preachy attitude. Shinshue, I'm not some idiot. Why do you look down on me so much? Do you think I'll get scammed no matter what I do? Then congratulations." I remained silent, offering her my solemn congratulations. After the college entrance exam results came out, I achieved the score I had hoped for. I successfully entered the university I had dreamed of. One night, I received an overseas phone call. Shoo shoo. It's Su Jingru. Do you still remember me? Su Hingru. I hummed in acknowledgement. The scenery here in Thailand is absolutely beautiful. I'm doing really well. Wanna come visit for a couple of days? My treat. As she spoke, I could hear noisy sounds in the background along, with occasional static crackling. Su Hingru. I'll give you one last piece of advice. People teaching people they never learn. But experience teaching people one time is enough, though it seems useless for you now. On the other end came Su Jingru's voice cracking. With desperation, I was wrong, shoo shoo, save me one more time, please can you come over? Zu is not a rich second generation. I hung up the phone. It seemed like a random, baseless statement. No, actually, it was my reply to her earlier words. Shoo shoo. I told you Zu was a rich second generation heir. Story 2. Rebirth. I let my classmate drink the energy drink before finals. She's the one who spiked it. The exam block corridors, heavy fire door swung shut behind someone, with its slow pneumatic hiss and final soft thud. And that was the thing that told me. It was the specific hiss and thud of that heavy fire door at the end of the exam block corridor at Pemberton. The long pneumatic sigh of the closer, then the soft final thud of the latch, a sound I had not heard in 11 years, and had forgotten was a sound at all. And when it thudded down the corridor, I went very still, and understood in the slow way you understand these things that I had been sent back. You forget the small things in the long, flat years. The wounds you keep, you can recite each one. But the hiss and thud of a corridor fire door before finals, the smell of the place, floor cleaner, and cold lockers, and exam paper ink, and the faint chemical sweetness of energy drinks, and nerves, the squeak of trainers on the polished floor, the hum of the corridor lights, the gray morning through the wide glass windows over the lockers. Those go quietly, and then one morning they all come back at once, and you realize you're 17 years old again, standing in the exam block corridor on the morning of the first final. Your bag feet, and that none of what came after this morning had happened yet. I let it arrive in pieces. The corridor, with its long run of dented lockers, the fire door thudding shut at the far end, the wide glass windows, with the gray morning behind them, the drink in my hand, the energy drink I'd brought to get me through the exam, the one everything would turn on, the frayed friendship bracelet on my wrist that a friend had knotted for me that year, a small bright thing I'd lost somewhere in the gray years after, and forgotten I'd ever owned, soft against my skin again, revision cards bulging in the side pocket of my bag, corners worn from 100 read-throughs, and then, last and heaviest, the knowledge of everything that came after this morning the first time, which landed so hard I had to put a hand on the cold lockers to keep from going down, and breathe, and wait for the corridor to stop tilting, and slowly right itself around me. Let me tell it in order. It's the only honest way to tell a thing that's happened to you twice. You have to understand about Coralie first, because the whole of it turns on what she was. Coralie was my classmate. We'd sit near each other for years, moved in the same circles, the kind of long proximity that's side of the best thing or the worst. And I learned too late which. She was striking, and magnetic, and socially gifted, the kind of girl a room arranged itself around, beloved by everyone, effortless, with people in exactly the way that the actual exams are not effortless. With anyone, she had charm the way I had revision. Total, easy, the thing that defined her. But the work didn't come to her the way the charm did. And finals are the one place charm can't help you. The exam doesn't care how lovely you are. It cares whether you know the material. And it had come down, in the way these things do, to the ranking, the result, the place at the top, and on the material, on the actual knowledge. The top result was going to be mine. I was the strongest in our year. Quiet about it, not flashy, but I'd earned it the hard, honest way. The person who wanted that top place as badly as I did, and could not earn it the same way, was Coralie. So she didn't out-revise me. She did the thing she did. Here's what happened the first time. The part one assembled only later. In the wreckage. The drink was the thing it all turned on. Though I didn't understand that until much too late. I brought an energy drink to the exam. The way everyone did. The way I always did. To get me through the long paper. And Coralie, my classmate, who sat near me, who had the easy access her charm bought her, did something I could never have imagined someone doing. She tampered with it, Spike my drink before the exam. Put something in it. Something that would wreck me for the paper. Something that would leave me unable to think, unable to perform, fumbling, and foggy through the most important exam of my life. And I drank it, not knowing, and I sat that final ruined, my mind not working, the questions sliding away from me, the result I'd earned dissolving into a fog I couldn't push through. Well, I had no idea why. That wasn't quite the whole of the betrayal, though. The whole of it was what she'd arranged in the same stroke, because when my result came in catastrophically low, when the student everyone expected to top the year fell apart in the exam, the story wrote itself, that I'd choked, that I'd crumbled, that I simply hadn't been as strong as everyone thought. No one knew about the drink. And worse, because Coralie was thorough, there was a whisper, the kind she was good at seeding, that maybe I'd done something to myself, taken something, that the foggy ruined state I'd been in was my own doing. The tempering was invisible, deniable, and it left me not just failed, but faintly suspect. The girl, who'd fallen apart, and maybe brought it on herself. The top place went to Coralie, who'd set the exam clear-headed, while I drowned in a fog she'd poured, and I was marked, quietly, as the one who'd crumbled, the talent that didn't hold up, the cautionary tale, maybe even the girl who'd done something foolish to herself, the kind of mark that follows you out of a school and into nothing. I remember the exam itself, with a clarity that never fades, the way the worst hour of a life never quite blurs, the slow horror as the paper started, and my mind wouldn't work, the questions I knew, that I'd revised cold, sliding away from me like wet stones, my thoughts gone thick, and far off, the clock ticking, while I read the same line 5 times, and understood none of it, sitting there for 3 hours in a fog I couldn't push through, watching my certain top result dissolve one unanswerable question at a time, with no idea why, no idea that the drink I'd sit through my own ritual had been turned into the thing that drowned me. And Coralie, a few rows over, clear and sharp, and working steadily, occasionally glancing back at me, with a look of such convincing concern that even afterward, when I half suspected, I couldn't make the suspicion hold, because surely no one would do that. Surely the lovely concerned girl wasn't the one who'd poured the fog. That was the genius of it. It looked like nothing. It looked like a girl who fell apart, maybe a girl who'd taken something she shouldn't have. There was no villain anyone else could see. Just my own ruined morning, and a whisper that I'd brought it on myself. The exams officer, who oversaw the finals, and their integrity, a precise, observant woman named Miss Trent, who had once told me I had the most genuine ability of any student in the year, looked at me afterward, with a disappointment that cut deeper than anything, because she believed in me, and the catastrophic foggy result had made her doubt it. She didn't say much. She just stopped seeing me the way she had, which from her was a kind of death. I'm not going to walk you through the years after. To fail the finals you were meant to top, to be marked as the one who crumbled, and maybe did it to herself, is a quiet sentence. The result gone, the future gone, the doors I'd worked to open collapsing, because the story attached to my name was folded, and maybe worse, and all of it done by a classmate who'd spiked my drink, with a charming smile. There is a particular cruelty in being made to look as though you'd sabotaged yourself, in carrying not just the failure, but the faint shame of a whispered suspicion that the ruin was your own doing, when the truth was that someone had poured it into your cup and watched you drink. The thing that was supposed to carry me through, the drink in my hand, became the instrument of my ruin, tampered with, turned into a fog I drowned in, and a suspicion I couldn't shake. I went small after that, and smaller, the most genuine ability narrowing down year by year to nothing, while somewhere Coralie wore the top place she'd poured me out of. And that's where the years went, one quiet season after another, and that's where they ended in a way I'd rather leave at the edge of his telling. By then there'd be no one to notice for a long while, and I won't dwell on it. And then there was the hiss and thud of the corridor fire door, the long pneumatic sigh, the soft final thud of a latch, and the clean and nervous smell of the exam block, and the drink in my hand, and I was 17 years old, and alive in the corridor on the morning of the first final, the drink not yet tampered with, and Coralie not yet a saboteur, and the whole thing still ahead of me, and a knowledge in my chest I intended, this time, to use. I did not resolve to guard my drink with both hands, to never let it out of my sight, to keep Coralie away from my bag, which some panic part of me wanted to do. I put my hand on the lockers and made myself think instead, all the way to the end of the thing, the way the first version of me never had. The obvious move was to protect the drink, to guard it, hold it, never let her near it. But I understood now that the obvious move was the wrong one, for the same reason it's always wrong. With people like Coralie, if I suddenly guarded my drink and grew watchful, she'd notice, and she'd find another moment, another angle. The exam morning was long and full of openings, and a determined saboteur who's already decided to spike your drink will find a way. And worse, guarding the drink wouldn't fix the deeper thing. Even if I protected my real drink perfectly, the first life ruin wasn't only the spiking, it was the invisibility of it, the way it left me failed and suspect, with no trace of what she'd done, so that I drowned in a fog no one could see the cause of, and even fell under a whisper that I'd done it to myself. Guarding the drink didn't expose the saboteur. It just left her free to try again, beloved and clean. So I wasn't going to merely guard my drink. I was going to do something better. The thing the second life had handed me, the thing that turned her sabotage into her own undoing, and the thing that mattered most to me, I was going to make sure that her tampering, the thing that had been invisible the first time, became visible, became the evidence that exposed her, and that no one, least of all me, ever drank a drop of what she spiked. Because here was the gift, the thing I understood now that I hadn't then. Coralie was going to tamper with my drink. It was her move, the thing she'd already decided to do, the sabotage she'd built her whole morning around. And the thing about her plan was that it depended entirely on the tampering staying invisible, on me drinking the spiked drink unknowing, on the damage looking like my own crumbling, on no one ever seeing the act. The whole power of it was in the dark, which meant the way to unmake it wasn't to dodge the spiking. It was to make the spiking scene, to let her tamper with a drink I would never ever drink, and to make sure that tampered drink became the one thing she never intended it to be. Evidence. Caught. Tested. Proof of exactly what she'd done. Because that was the thing she'd never expect. The thing that lived in her blind spot the way it lived in every saboteur's. She relied so completely on the dark that she'd never imagined someone might want her to spike a drink, might leave the cup out precisely so that the act would happen, and be caught. A saboteur thinks the tampering is her secret weapon. She never considers that the tampering itself, witnessed and tested, is the most damning thing she could possibly produce. A confession in a cup. The first time the spiking ruined me, because it stayed hidden. This time it would ruin her, because I'd make sure it didn't. So I wouldn't drink the drink. And I wouldn't just guard it. I'd let Coralie tamper with it, believing, as she always did, that I'd drink it unknowing, and drown in the fog, and be mocked as the girl who crumbled, and I'd make certain I never touched it, and that the tampered drink was caught and tested and became the documented evidence of her sabotage. Her spiking, the act she committed in what she thought was the dark, would be the very thing that exposed her. Because a spiked drink that nobody drinks isn't a weapon. It's a confession. It's the physical proof of what a spiker did. And Coralie, certain the tampering would stay invisible the way it had every time she'd relied on people's trust, would never imagine that the drink she spiked would be the thing that convicted her. The trap wasn't aimed at her body. Nobody was going to drink anything. It was aimed at the dark she relied on. She would choose, freely, to spike the drink rather than sit the exam honestly, and to spike it blind, never imagining the tampering could be seen. And that act, that choice, made visible, would be the whole of her undoing. I'd sit my exam clear-headed, having drunk nothing she touched. She'd tamper with a drink that would never be drunk, and would instead be tested, and her sabotage would land on her, because a spiked drink that's caught instead of consumed exposes the one who spiked it, and Coralie would never imagine the dark she worked in could be turned to light. And I want to be precise about the distinction, because it mattered to me more than almost anything, and it was the whole of what the second life had taught me. I was not doing to her what she had done to me. I was not putting anything in anyone's drink, not steering her toward harm, not arranging for a single person to swallow a single thing. Nobody would be hurt. The plan was the opposite of hers. Hers worked by making someone drink poison in the dark. Mine worked by making sure no one drank anything at all. And that the act of spiking, her act, freely chosen, was simply seen. If Coralie had sat her finals honestly, revised her own material, kept her hands to herself, nothing I'd done would have touched her. The drink on the ledge would have sat there untouched and been quietly binned, harming no one, and she'd have risen, or not on her own ability. The drink only became a trap if she did the one thing she had no right to do: tamper with it to wreck another person, and it only exposed her because she chose to spike it, which is to say, it exposed her on exactly the act that made her a saboteur, and on nothing else. An honest student would never have touched it, and would never have been caught by it. Only someone who'd poison a classmate's drink to win could be undone by the poisoning being seen. The trap didn't harm anyone, and didn't catch the innocent. It caught precisely the person who tampers, because she can't win straight, and it caught her, with her own hand, on her own act, with no one drinking a drop, because she could not imagine that the dark she counted on could ever be turned to evidence. But I am careful, and I had died once of being insufficiently careful, so I built the proof side of it, with great deliberateness, because the evidence was the plan this time, and I wanted it airtight, both that her tampering would be caught and tested, and that if it came to the reversal, the truth of who did what would be unmistakable. I went before the exams to Miss Trent, the exams officer, the one who'd believed in me, and then doubted me the first time. She was precise and observant, and cared about the integrity of her exams the way some people care about a creed, because a result that landed on sabotage rather than ability, she often said, corrupted everything, because the student who'd really earned it would be erased, and the one who cheated would be advanced. In my first life, she'd been the one whose doubt cut deepest, not for malice, but because the tampering had been invisible. Ide just looked like a student who crumbled, maybe one who'd done something to herself, and she'd had no reason to suspect otherwise. This time I came to her not as a future cautionary tale, but as a careful student raising a concern before anything had happened, and the conversation was a door I was opening on purpose, on a hinge I'd learned about in a life she'd never remember. Miss Trent, I said, finding her before the first exam, this is going to sound anxious, but I'd like to raise something and put it on the record, and I'd rather raise it now than try to explain it after. She looked up, with the precise, observant attention she gave everything. Go on. Students bring drinks into the exam block, I said carefully, and I've realized that creates a danger I never thought about, that someone's drink could be tampered with, spiked, interfered with before an exam in a way that would wreck their performance, and that it could look exactly like the students simply crumbling, or even like they'd done something to themselves, with no one ever knowing what really happened. I'm not accusing anyone, but I want to do a few things now before there's any question. First, I'd like it on the record, dated, that I'm raising this concern in advance, that I'm worried about drink tampering before exams, and about being made to look like I simply failed or harmed myself, because the student who flags this beforehand, when she has nothing to gain, is not the student who then crumbles for ordinary reasons. And second, and most importantly, I'm not going to drink anything during my exams that I can't be completely certain of, and if my drink is interfered with, I want it kept, not thrown away, and tested, so that if anyone tampers with a drink in this exam block, the tampered drink itself becomes the evidence of what was done, rather than something that just disappears into a student's bad day. A spiked drink that's caught and tested tells you exactly who did what. I'd rather it be caught than drunk. Miss Trent's observant expression sharpened. The attention of a precise woman hearing a danger she'd never quite considered named precisely. That is a remarkably perceptive and serious thing to raise, she said slowly, and you're entirely right that it's a vulnerability, and a frightening one. Interference with a drink before an exam could indeed look exactly like a student failing on her own, or worse, and I'd never have thought to look past the obvious. Which troubles me now you've said it. She studied me. Yes. I'll note your concern. Dated. Now that you raised in advance a specific fear of drink tampering, and of being made to look as though you simply failed or harmed yourself. And I commit to this. I will treat any tampered drink in this exam block as a serious integrity and safety matter. If a drink is interfered with, it will be kept and tested, not discarded, and the tampering itself will be investigated as evidence. Who had access? Who was near? What was put in it? A spiked drink that is caught will not be assumed away as a student's bad luck. It will be treated as exactly what it is. Proof of an act. And no student should drink anything she's unsure of. You're right to be careful. And I'll make sure the invigilators are watchful. She made the note, dated it, and I watched her write it. Why raise it now? Oh, are you expecting something? I hope I'm wrong. I said simply, but I'd rather have the concern on record, and the tampering caught than drink something I shouldn't, and have it all disappear into a story about me crumbling. The truth of what happens in this exam block should be visible. Caught. Tested. On the record. Not assumed away in the dark. Miss Trent nodded slowly, with something close to respect, and something graver underneath it. That's exactly right. And it's wiser than most adults. It's noted. Dated. If any drink is tampered with, we catch it, keep it, test it. We don't let it disappear. And we don't let anyone drink something unsafe. That's a promise. She filed it, and I watched her file it. A spiked drink that's drunk is a hidden crime. A spiked drink that's caught is a confession. We'll make sure any tampering here is the second kind. That's the whole of it. In the end, I had it, both halves, and the most important half airtight. The certainty that I drink nothing she touched, and that her tampering would be caught, and tested, and turned into evidence rather than consumed, plus the dated record that fixed the danger in advance, and committed the one observant adult to treating a tampered drink as proof of an act. I'd taken the thing that destroyed me the first time, the invisible spiking, the fog I drowned in, the suspicion I couldn't shake, and arranged for the tampering to be made visible, caught, and turned against the one who did it, with no one drinking a drop, because this time, when she spiked my drink, the spiking itself would be the evidence, and the right woman already knew to catch it, and test it rather than assume. I thanked her, and went to the corridor, with the trap laid, the trap of the light, the trap of the caught confession, before Coralie had tampered with a thing. Coralie found me in the corridor before the first exam, drifting over, with the warmth, and the dazzle she used, when she wanted something, her eyes already moving, casually, so casually, to my bag, my things, the drink in my hand. There you are, she said, full, leaning against the lockers beside me. The one to beat, everyone says. You always look so calm before these. I'm a wreck. I can barely hold it together. She let her eyes drift over my drink. Light, appraising. Ooh, you've got your energy drink. And everything. So organized. You always have one before the big exams. Don't you? It's like your ritual. She laughed. Light, warm, irresistible. And there was something underneath it I could read now. And couldn't then. The appraising flick of the eyes. The cool mapping of a habit. A target. An opening. Set it down. Relax for a second. You've got ages before they let us in. Don't let it get warm. There it was. The opening move of my first death. The warmth. The appraising eyes on my drink. You always have one before the big exams. Set it down. Don't let it get warm. The casual reconnaissance of a saboteur mapping the ritual. The habit. The moment she'd tamper. The move she'd built her. Whole morning around. The first time I'd been oblivious. Warm. Glad of her company. Set my drink down. Without a thought. Drifted off to the loo. Left it unwatched. Drunk it later, never imagining. This time I knew exactly where the set it down, don't let it get warm led to the tampering. The fog. The ruin. And I knew that the worst move was to clutch my drink. And glare. Which would warn her. Or to accuse her. Which I couldn't prove. And which would tip my hand. So I gave her the answer that left the drink exactly where she tamper. With it. Warm. Open. Exactly as oblivious as she expected. Because the drink she spiked was never going to be drunk. It was going to be caught. Oh. Yeah. Good idea. I said. Easy. Warm. And I set the drink down on the ledge by the lockers. The way I always had. The way she expected. The drink I would never touch again. I always need it before a big one. Back in a sec. Keep an eye on my stuff. Ismail Tahir. Open. Unguarded. Entirely. Without warning. Having already resolved that not a drop of that drink would pass my lips. That the next hands on it that mattered would be the ones that caught. And tested it. Don't let anyone run off. With my lucky drink. And I watched her file it. The drink on the ledge. The ritual. The unwatched moment I was handing her. Exactly as what I needed her to file it as. My drink. My habit. The thing to spike. The opening she'd been waiting for. Because I hadn't guarded it. I'd set it down. Warmly asked her to watch my things. Called it my lucky drink. When what it really was bait. A drink I would never drink. A cup. Whose tampering would be caught. And tested. And turned into the proof of what she did. She'd spike it. Certain I'd drink it. And drown in the fog the way I had every time she'd relied on the dark. And it would be caught instead. And become the evidence. I'd handed her the unwatched moment. Knowing she'd take it. Knowing the spiking she committed in what she thought was the dark would be the whole of her undoing. Dragged into the light. Course I will. She breathed. Her eyes already on the drink. The unwatched ledge. The opening. And the warmth was the warmth of someone. Whose plan was clicking into place. Go. Go. I've got it. I don't know what you'd do. Without me. I've got it. I don't know what you'd do. Without me. She had no idea how true it was. Or how completely the meaning would reverse. She had no idea that the drink she was already planning to spike, the one she believed I'd drink, and drown in, would never touch my lips. That the tampering she was about to commit in what she thought was the dark would be caught, kept, tested, turned into the documented proof of exactly what she'd done. Or that the quiet classmate smiling at her had spent the morning making certain that the act she committed would be the thing that exposed her. And that the danger was already flagged, dated, with the one officer who'd treat a spiked drink as a confession. She thought she'd found her unwatched moment. She'd found the act that would convict her, and chosen it freely, because she'd rather spike my drink than sit the exam honestly, and couldn't imagine the dark she worked in could ever be turned to light. It happened the way I knew it would, the way it had the first time, the unwatched moment I handed her. The drink left on the ledge, and Coralie alone. With it for the minute, that was all she'd ever needed. I didn't watch her do it directly. I didn't have to. And watching too obviously would have warned her. I gave her the opening exactly as I had the first time. Set the drink down. Asked her to keep an eye on my things. Drifted off. And let her have the minute. And in that minute, she did what she'd come to do. What she built her whole morning around. She tampered with the drink. Spiked it. Put into it the thing that was meant to drown me in fog through the most important exam of my life. Certain that I'd come back. And drink it unknowing. And crumble the way I had the first time. The way her plans always worked. Because they always lived in the dark. Except this time. The drink was never going to touch my lips. And this time, the minute she spent alone with it was not a secret. It was the most documented minute of the morning. Because I'd done what I came back to do. I'd flagged the danger to Miss Trent in advance. Dated. I told her I'd drink nothing I couldn't be certain of. And I'd arrange for exactly this. For the tampered drink to be watched for. Caught. Kept. And tested. Rather than drunk. And disappeared into a story about me crumbling. The invigilators were watchful. The concern was on the record. And the drink Coralie spiked. Certain it was her secret weapon. Was about to become the one thing she never imagined it could be. The evidence. I want to tell this part carefully, because it matters that it wasn't cruel, and nobody was harmed, and I took no pleasure in the mechanics of it, even though it was the thing I'd come back to make happen. It was just a saboteur's secret act being dragged, gently and completely, into the light. I came back to the corridor, and I did not drink the drink. I never went near it as a thing to drink. Instead, the careful machinery I'd set up did its quiet work. The drink, flagged and watched, was identified as having been tampered with, interfered, within the minute it sat unwatched, and rather than being drunk or discarded, it was kept, caught, set aside as exactly what Miss Trent had promised to treat it as, a serious integrity and safety matter. a tampered drink to be tested and investigated, rather than assumed away. And tested. It told the truth. The drink had been spiked, interfered with, adulterated, made into the weapon it was meant to be. That was a fact now. A physical, documented fact. Not an invisible thing that had drowned me in a fog no one could see. The tampering that had been the perfect invisible crime the first time was, this time, a court and tested object sitting in the light. Proof that someone had spiked a student's drink before finals. And the question that proof raised, who, had only one honest answer. Because the machinery I'd set up answered it. Who had access to the drink in the minute it sat unwatched. Who was near it, alone, with it, asked to watch the very bag it sat beside. Who had the opportunity, in the documented minute, to do the thing the test proved had been done. The answer was Coralie, because I'd handed her that minute precisely, so that her act would be the one the evidence pointed to. Not framed, not planted, but genuinely hers. She had genuinely spiked the drink in a minute that was genuinely documented as hers. And the tempered cup genuinely proved that someone had done exactly what she'd done. The sabotage act, committed in what she thought was the dark, was now a tested object in the light, pointing at the only person who'd had the drink alone. Coralie had spiked a drink to commit the perfect invisible crime, and instead had produced, with her own hands, the perfect piece of evidence against herself, a confession in a cup, caught before it could become a weapon. The recognition rolled through the exam block the way these things roll. The tempered drink caught, tested. The investigation Miss Trent had promised swinging into motion. The documented minute, the access, the opportunity, and it pointed, cleanly and undeniably, at Coralie, the beloved girl, the charming one, the one everyone adored, revealed as the person who'd spiked a classmate's drink before finals, caught by the very act she'd been certain would stay invisible. And nobody was harmed. That was the thing that mattered most. The thing I'd built the whole plan around. I drank nothing. No one had. The drink that was meant to drown me had drowned no one. Because it had been caught instead of consumed. Turned from a weapon into evidence before it could do the thing Coralie intended. The only thing the spiking damaged was Coralie, and it damaged her not by harming anyone, but by being seen, by being the documented act that exposed exactly what she'd done. Coralie, of course, reached for the reversal, because some version of the reversal was the move that had worked the first time, the move that had buried me under a whisper that I'd done it to myself. She tried, even in the wreckage, to turn it, to say that I'd done it, that I'd spiked my own drink, and framed her, that I'd planted the whole thing to destroy her, that she was the victim of my scheme. And this time it found nothing to stand on, because this time the truth was a tested object in the light, fixed in advance, and pointing only one way, because Miss Trent, I was told afterward, laid out what she already knew, what she'd recorded before any of it, before these exams. She said, in essence, a student came to me and raised a concern, dated, in writing, that she feared a drink might be tampered with before an exam, and that she might be made to look as though she'd simply failed or harmed herself. She told me she would drink nothing she couldn't be certain of, and asked that any tampered drink be kept and tested rather than discarded. She flagged this in advance, when she had nothing to gain, when no result and no incident existed yet. And here is what your accusation requires me to believe, that she spiked her own drink, did not drink it, and framed you, but the drink was tampered, within a minute, when you were alone, with it, when she had asked you to watch her things. The evidence is a tested, documented fact. The opportunity was yours, and a student who spikes her own drink to frame someone does not first come to me, dated, predicting the exact tampering, and asking that it be caught. The person who raised this in advance is not the person who did it. The person who had the drink alone, in the documented minute, is. The matter is not closed. And when Coralie tried again, because charm was all she had, because it was the only tool she'd ever needed, when she insisted she'd been set up, that leaving the drink out was itself a trap, Miss Trent said the thing that ended it. No one made you tamper with it. Leaving a drink on a ledge is not a crime. Spiking it is. She was under no obligation to guard her drink against you. She was under no obligation to be sabotaged at all. That she left it unwatched does not mean you had to put something in it. You did that. The trap, if you want to call it that, was simply that you were allowed to do the thing you chose to do. And that this time it was caught instead of hidden. The only person who spiked a drink here is the one who spiked it. The matter is not closed. The reversal didn't just fail. It turned over in the air and became its own confession. The confession of a girl who had spiked a classmate's drink to ruin her, certain it would stay invisible, and instead had produced the tested, documented evidence of her own act in front of an officer holding a dated note that the victim had seen it coming. Coralie was found to have tampered with another student's drink before finals, established not by a whisper this time, but by the court, and tested cup, by the documented minute, by the dated record, and finally by her own failed attempt to reframe it. The finding went on to her record, the serious, permanent kind, the kind that follows a person. The top place she'd schemed toward was gone past recovery, and nothing touched me, because there was nothing to touch. I'd sat my exam clear-headed, drunk nothing she touched, flagged my concern in advance, and committed no act against anyone. I'd simply left a drink on a ledge that she'd chosen freely to spike. The same fate that ended me the first time, the ruined result, the marked name, the whisper of self-sabotage, landed this time on the right person, the one who'd spiked the drink, exposed by the spiking itself, and the top place, earned clear-headed on the strength of real revision, and a mind that worked, because nothing had been poured into it, came where it should have come all along, to me, in the ordinary daylight way it should have the first time. Coralie found me in the corral afterward. After it was all known, I'd half expected it. She came toward me, and the dazzle was gone. Not failed, not cracked, simply absent, switched off, because there was no longer a room to charm. Her lovely face was blotched and swollen, and for the first time in all the years I'd known her, the devastation on it was real, because it served no audience and no purpose. She wasn't performing it at anyone. She was just inside it. You knew, she said. You knew I'd spike it. You left it there. You asked me to watch your bag. And it was caught. You set it up so it would be. Do you want to sit? I said. She didn't move. How did you know? You went to Trent first. You flagged it. You never drank it. Her voice cracked. How could you possibly have known to do all of that? There's no answer to how did you know that I could give her. Not the true one, which lived in a ruined exam and a long erosion, and a place where the years went and ended, so I gave her the other truth, the smaller one that was no less true. I knew you'd spike my drink. I said quietly. I could see it the moment you leaned on the lockers telling me to set it down. Don't let it get warm. Eyeing my ritual like a target, you decided you weren't going to revise and sit the exam straight. You were going to take the top place by pouring a fog into my cup, the way people like you do. In the dark, where no one would ever see. I held her eyes, so I didn't try to stop you. I just made sure I'd never drink it, and that, when you spiked it, the spiking would be caught, and tested, and seen. Because the whole power of what you do is that it stays invisible. And the one thing you never imagined was that someone might leave the cup out precisely so your secret act would become evidence. I didn't frame you. Coralie, you really did spike it. I just made sure the thing you did in the dark happened in the light. The trap was never aimed at you, or at anyone's body. Nobody drank a drop. It was aimed at the dock you counted on. You walked into it, because you'd rather poison my drink than sit the exam honestly. And a saboteur, who stakes everything on the dock, has no answer. When the dock turns to evidence, that was the truest thing I had it in me to say. And it was a kind of mercy, because the deeper truth was not a weapon I needed, and not a weight she could carry. Her face crumpled, and for a moment I braced, almost out of habit, for the old script, the tears, the dazzling wounded reframe. But she was too undone for it, or too tired, or, for the first time in all the years I'd known her, too exposed to manage it. I always counted on no one seeing, she said, flat and bare and wondering. That's the thing. My whole life, everything I ever did to get ahead, I did where no one would see. The little sabotages, the things poured in the dark, the cruelties no one could trace, and I never got caught, because I was so good at being loved that no one ever looked. and I started to believe the dark was just mine, that I could do anything in it. She looked at me. I spiked your drink, without a second thought, because I was so sure no one would ever see. You always let me work in the dark. Why didn't you this time? And there it was. Whole of it. Said out loud. Not why did you betray me? Not what did I do to deserve this? Not I'm sorry. Just why did the girl, whose dark I always worked in, finally turn the light on? I'd spent a whole erased life imagining what I'd say to her if I ever got the chance. And now the chance was here. And the speeches had no weight in my hands. They'd been ballast for a sinking person. And I wasn't sinking anymore. Because letting you work in the dark was never kindness. I said, it was just me drinking the fog you poured, and carrying the blame for crumbling. Again and again, so that your act stayed invisible. And you stayed beloved, and clean. I stopped drinking the fog. I let your act happen in the light, where it belonged. Caught, tested, seen, and let it land on you instead of me. I didn't poison anyone. Coralie, I just stopped being the place your poison disappeared into, and made sure the next time you poured it, the cup would be a witness. I let it settle. That's the only thing that changed. I turned the light on. The drink was never the point. The dark was. And a thing done in the dark is only a secret until someone makes it visible. You spiked a drink to commit an invisible crime. You never imagined the cup could be the one thing that saw you. But a tampered drink that's caught instead of drunk is a confession. And the confession was yours. She stared at me for a long moment. Something moved behind the swollen eyes. Not understanding. I think people like Coralie don't learn from consequences. Consequences only teach them to find a darker dark. A place even harder to see into. A new victim, who won't think to flag it, but something moved there. Maybe just the dawning recognition that this one thing, the working in the dark that had carried her whole life, had finally been turned in a single quart cup into the light. Then she turned and walked away, and she didn't look back. And I stood in the corridor and waited to feel the old thing. The wish to see the beloved saboteur brought low. The years of being the one who'd crumpled while she shone. And it wasn't there. It had burned off somewhere in the quiet of the quart cup, because I hadn't done anything to her at all. I'd only refused to drink the fog, and made her own act visible, and let her own choice to spike rather than study be the whole of it. It had closed over, quietly, completely, the way an exam block goes still after the last paper is collected, and the only sound is a fire door hissing and thudding at the end of an empty corridor. And there was no ache where the old resentment had been, which surprised me more than anything, because the first time around that resentment had been most of the shape of my whole life. I won't pretend Coralie learned. I'd watched her across 2 lives, and I knew better than to dress the truth up in comfort. People like her don't revise themselves. They only revise their hiding places, and even that only when forced. The lesson she'd take from this, if she took one at all, would not be win straight. Do your own work. It would be find a doc, a victim, who won't flag it. And she'd spend her life pouring things into cups where she thought no one could see, and finding, slowly, that the doc she'd counted on her whole life keeps fewer secrets than she believed, because the world has more witnesses than charm can blind. What I can tell you is what became of her. The way these things reach you in a world small enough that everything reaches you. The quart cup did its quiet work. The top place was gone, the finding a permanent mark, and the world that had arranged itself around her charm rearranged itself, slowly, around the knowledge of what she'd done in the dock. The charm still worked on strangers for a while, on people who hadn't heard, but the people who'd been in that exemplar remembered, the way you remember the beloved girl who turned out to spike drinks, and her old method, the working in the dark, deployed in a world that had learned to keep a light on, bought her less and less, because charm had never once you, and poured a thing she'd poured, and the truth of what she did was the only thing that ever really counted, and it was the one thing she'd spent her life making sure no one saw, until a quart cup saw it for everyone. I didn't feel triumphant, and I want to be honest about that, because there's no triumph in watching anyone's secret act exposed, even a saboteur's. I felt the way you feel watching hard weather from inside a warm house, an acknowledgement that the storm is real and cold, and underneath it the quiet, Steady fact that you are no longer standing out in it, that you stopped offering yourself up to it, that you came inside and closed the door, and the door held, and that, for once, the person out in the weather was out there, because of what she'd chosen to do in the dark, not because of what had been poured into me. The lesson, when I finally turned it over and looked at it whole, wasn't trust no one, and it certainly wasn't let the saboteur be exposed. It was something quieter, and it had taken me 2 lives to learn it. A saboteur stakes everything on the dark, on the act no one sees. She poured a thing meant to stay invisible, and the visible cup was the one witness she couldn't charm. A thing done in the dark is only a secret until someone makes it visible. And the surest way to undo a person who works in the dark is not to fight her there, but to turn on the light. For the whole of my first life, I believed that the danger was being sabotaged, that if I could just guard my drink, what should every second I'd be safe. And that belief had destroyed me, because I couldn't guard it every second. And when she spiked it, the damage looked like my own crumbling, and even my own fault. What I'd never understood was that a saboteur like Coralie doesn't really rely on my callousness. She relies on the invisibility of her act, on the dark, on no one ever seeing what she did. That reliance on the dark is the whole vulnerability, and it lives entirely in her. The first time, her spiking stayed invisible, and I drank the fog, and drowned, and was even blamed for it. The second time, I let her spiking happen in the light, caught, tested, seen, and the same act, the same drink, the same girl produced not my ruin, but hers, because the only thing that had changed was whether her act stayed in the dark or came into the light. And no one drank a drop, by the way, and there's one truth underneath, even that one, the one I bought, with the years that went and ended. The people who sabotage you in the dark are betting the dark will hold. That's the whole vulnerability, and it's theirs, not mine. Coralie could only be undone by a quart cup, because her entire method depended on her act never seen. A thing she relied on so completely she couldn't imagine someone leaving a drink out precisely so the act would be caught. She didn't just fail to ruin me. She demonstrated, in a tested cup, that she had never been able to win in the light at all. That her whole life had depended on the dark holding, on no one ever looking, on the people she poisoned drinking the fog and carrying the blame. The difference between the girl who crumbled and the one who topped the year was never the drink on the ledge. It was whether her act stayed in the dark or came into the light. And the second time, I turned on the light and let her own act, freely chosen, be the whole of it, with no one harmed at all. I took the top place that year, the rightful holder of the real result. My mind clear, and my future opening in front of me clean. The result the saboteur had poured me out of the first time, restored now on the strength of revision that was mine in both of lives, and a clear head that this time nothing had fogged. There was no question of crumbling, no whisper of self-sabotage, no clothed, because there was nothing to cloud. I'd sat the exam clear-headed, drunk nothing she touched, and the spiking that had ruined me the first time was, this time, a quart cup pointing at the one who done it. Miss Trent certified my result in terms that became, in their quiet way, a vindication, a student whose ability was proven not by her word against a charming saboteur's, but by a clear-headed result beside a tested cup that told the truth no story could hide. She stopped me once, near the end, in the corridor, and looked at me for a long moment, with the precise observant eyes that had overseen those finals for years, and, until that morning, never quite known how to tell sabotage from a student's bad day. You came to me before the exams, she said, and warned me, dated, that a drink might be tampered with, and that you might be made to look as though you'd failed or harmed yourself, and you asked that any tampered drink be caught and tested rather than drunk or discarded. At the time I thought it merely careful. Afterward I understood it was something more, as though you knew, somehow, that someone would spike your drink, and that the only thing that could clear you and catch them was to make sure the act was seen instead of swallowed. She paused, as though you'd once drunk a fog someone poured and been remembered as the girl who crumbled, or worse, when the truth was that someone had spiked your cup in the dark. Maybe I had, I said. She said, and studied me a moment longer, and did not press it. Well, you taught me something I will carry for the rest of my career. And it's this, that the cruelest sabotage is the kind that stays invisible. And the way to defeat it is not to fight it in the dark, but to make it visible, to catch the act, test it, bring it into the light where it becomes a confession. And you did it, without anyone coming to harm. You made certain no one drank a drop. A charming account survives until the act is caught and tested. You did nothing to her. You left a drink on a ledge, and refused to drink it, and let her choose. She undid herself by doing in what she thought was the dark the very thing the light was waiting for. She nodded once, and at the end of the corridor the fire door hissed, and thudded over the emptying exam block. A thing done in the dark is a secret until it's seen. You taught me to keep a light on. That's the whole of it. In the end, I walked out into the morning, past the exam block where my future had been poured away, and now, instead, was mine. The first time I'd lived this, the saboteur had spiked my drink in the dark and ridden my fogged ruin to the top place I'd earned. Not because I'd crumbled, but because the tempering was invisible, and a fog student looked like a girl who fell apart, maybe one who'd done it to herself. This time I let my classmate spike the drink. I just never told her that tempered cup was the evidence. Never told her that the drink she spiked, certain I'd drink it and drown, would never touch my lips, and would instead be caught and tested and turned into the documented proof of exactly what she'd done. Because I'd understood at last the one thing 2 lives had taught me, that a saboteur who stakes everything on the dark has no answer when the dark turns to light, and that the surest way to undo her is not to fight her in the dark, but to make her secret act visible, with no one harmed, nothing drunk, only the truth caught and seen. I'd refused the fog once, quietly, and flagged the danger, dated, with the one officer who'd catch and test it, and left the cup where she'd spike it, and call it her secret weapon. And I'd let one fact go unspoken to the girl who'd poisoned me to win, the fact that I knew, with a certainty number 17-year-old should have, exactly what she'd pour, and exactly how completely the pouring would expose her, because she could no more imagine the dark turning to light than she could have sat the exam straight. 1 quart cup left where she'd spike it, 1 silence held. It turned out to be enough. It turned out to be the whole difference between the girl who crumbled and the one who topped the year, between the small years where I went smaller, while the saboteur shone on my fogged ruin, and the whole true life that was always in real ability, and a clear head, mine. A fire door had thudded me back into this life, and a quart cup had kept me here, and between those 2 small things, a latch closing at the end of a corridor, and a tamped drink that was seen instead of swallowed, lay the entire distance between the 2 lives I'd been given, and all I'd had to do to cross it was refuse the fog, leave the cup where the saboteur would spike it, and turn on the light. Her whole life had depended on no one ever switching.